I realize that's soil stains on my mouth. Oh, can you see it from there?
Yeah, I do. It's one of my goals is
Good morning. Good morning. Look at all these happy faces. And some faces we haven't seen for a bit. How exciting is that? So good morning, Center for Spiritual Living Morristown, and good morning all of those of you in the virtual world, whether it's today or any time in the future. We come together to celebrate the theme of the year, living every day under. And in August, I was going to say September, in August, we are blessing and revering nature. So we're exploring more deeply the idea of nature and all its different levels, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And the topic today is heaven on earth? Really? Heaven on earth? So we're blessed because we have Lori, licensed practitioner, with us. We're going to celebrate her installation officially on September 18th. It's 18th, right? So come to that. And Grace in Nuremberg texted me this morning and told me that he's not feeling well. He woke up with a migraine, so he's not here to do live music with us today. But he'll be back. We love Grayson. So today I'm really diving into this idea of using prepositions. How we use prepositions makes a difference. In the earth, on the earth, as the earth. So we're going to explore that a little bit of how that becomes an experience of oneness or separation and how that shows up in the world. So those of you that are virtual and not so familiar with us, and maybe those of you here that have never gone onto our website, it's possible. cslmorristown.org. There's all kinds of stuff on there. And we have today a leadership planning retreat with our leadership council. So let's have the leadership stand up and let's give them a big hand. I know Fernando is around somewhere.
Yeah,
Kat is at Fernando's greeting, and Christine Goldthwaite is facilitating it today. So we're glad she's here. But there are other things too, because for example, next Sunday we have Kat Roman doing her sound bath. Wow. Bring a yoga mat if you want, because we're going to be lying down on the floor. Some of you who prefer to sit, you can sit. But she's going to bring her singing bowls, her crystal bowls, and play that sound for us that's so healing. So the best thing for you to do is to register online. If you get to weekly constant contact, it's very easy. The link is right there. If you don't get it, let me know and I'll make sure we get that, because Christine also helps with that. So that's going to be really fun. And I have a flyer out here because the retreat in Bolger, Maryland is back. And that is a retreat I highly recommend. It's like a 24-hour immersion. And one of my favorite New Thought musicians, she's also an amazing jazz singer, Lisa Ferraro, is going to facilitate that. So that's going to be October 21, 22. It starts Friday at 5:30 and it ends Saturday at 5:30. So pick up the flyer. I'm definitely going. And I probably can fit 2 or 3 people in the car so we can ride together. So that will be fun. Yeah. So if you are in the virtual world, let us know you're there. Say hello. Use all the bubbles. Ask questions. Make comments. All that stuff. So I want to, before we go into the opening treatment, which Lori is going to do, I want to do the Namaste practice, which is our way of saying, I see you. I really see you. I see beyond your skin. I see beyond your cool outfits, even though they're stained. I see beyond who you think you are, what your labels are, what your identity is. I see the presence and the power of God within you. And while I do, I'm allowing you to be a reflection to see it in me. So that's really the word namaste in Sanskrit. It describes all that. So put your hands together and just greet someone and say namaste. Well, you're namaste in a way. Namaste means fully present. We are blessed to have Lori do an opening treatment for us and a guided meditation.
Good morning. I am very grateful to be here this morning, and I invite you all to close your eyes and join me in this opening affirmative treatment. So I know that there is a power and a presence that is everywhere. This one power, this one creative source, this one divine intelligence is that which created every grain of sand and everything to the farthest reaches of the cosmos. That which beats my heart and breathes my breath, that glorious living love that expresses as each one of us. I know that this power and this presence exists in me, as me, through me, as it does each one here today and each one on the planet. We are each just unique manifestations of this one divine energy. And we are here to remember that and to demonstrate that in all we think, do, and say. And so right here, right now, I know that this service fills each of our spirits and our hearts so that we get to go out and be a greater expression of this love in the world. I know that all that needs to be heard is heard, all that needs to be known is known, and that each one is grown from the experience of being here today. I know that the Leadership Council's retreat is one of ever-expanding service and grace, and that it blesses our community. They bless our community. And so I am grateful to know this truth of who and what we are today. I am grateful to be here with all of you, and I am grateful to speak this word. And so from this place of a grateful heart, I release this word into an ever-present and loving law that can only say yes, knowing that as I think it, speak it, and do truly believe that so it must be. And I invite you to join me in saying, and so it is. Okay, so I'm going to lead you all in a little meditative experience, but first I'm going to preface that with a little story about how I got to this meditation, which is from my experience yesterday. So Reverend Frankie's talk today is about heaven and earth and nature. You know, the theme of this month is nature. So yesterday, I have a lot going on right now with my housing situation stuff, and yesterday I went to the beach. And so for me, the experience of heaven, the experience of oneness, the experience of nature, there's no better expression for me than being at the beach. So we know in this teaching that heaven is a state of consciousness. There's no such thing as heaven up there and earth down here. That heaven is the awareness of our oneness with spirit at all times. And that, for me, there's no place where that happens more than at the beach. So here I am walking on this beautiful empty beach because I go really early. And I dive into the water, and it's beautiful, it's blissful, it's silky, it's the perfect temperature. The sand is the perfect temperature below my feet, and I am in heaven. And I feel one with my Creator, one with Spirit, one with all of life. I'm sure some of you can relate to that experience. And then my sponsee joined me, we hung out on the beach, and we went swimming again a little later. Now, there are jellyfish in the water. There is seaweed. There are dead little crabs floating on the top. And my first thought was, what happened to my heavenly beach? What happened to my heavenly experience? And then I looked around and I saw the seagulls diving to feed. I looked around and I saw that the sky was still beautiful, the breeze still felt amazing, the ocean still felt good, wasn't exactly how I wanted it, but it was an understanding that all of life contributes to this experience of heaven. Then I got out of the water and oh my goodness, I saw a whale. My first ever experience of seeing a whale just appeared there, and I thought, this is a heavenly experience. And this is because I let go of judgment about that slimy jellyfish that I didn't like rubbing against my leg and the little things floating on the surface of the water, and I chose to see the heaven in it all. And I was rewarded with a whale sighting. At least that's how I choose to see it. So right now, I invite you to join me in a little meditation to re-experience a little bit of heaven for yourself. So I invite you to close your eyes and walk with me on that beach. Feel the warm sand beneath your feet. Smell the salt air. Feel the breeze coming off the ocean and the warmth of the sun on your skin. Breathe in and breathe out. And feel your oneness with all of nature. Feel the wonder and that sense of heaven, of just being aware and grateful. Now walk with me to the water's edge and step into that silky, salty water. If you don't like the water, you can just stay there with your feet in the water. Otherwise, dive in with me and feel that silky smoothness against your skin. It is the perfect temperature. You are one with the sea, which is such a great expression of nature, such a great expression of the oneness of all of life, as we are each just droplets of water, salt water. Our bodies are made up of so much salt water that we are one with this ocean. We are a drop in the ocean, and the ocean is within each drop of us. Breathe in and breathe out that sense of oneness. Now, perhaps you may feel something swim past you, rub up against you, but need that break that feeling of oneness? Can you still appreciate being one with nature? Can you still appreciate that all of life has a right to be, even the jellyfish, which the seagulls are now diving to eat, and which may have even attracted a whale, who knows? Can you swim among the jellyfish and still feel the wonder and the heaven that is the consciousness of oneness with all of life? Breathe in and breathe out. It feels so good to know that heaven is a state of mind, to know that I am one with all of nature, to know that I can be grateful for every moment, every grain of sand, every jellyfish, every cloud, every expression of spirit. I get to choose. And today, and hopefully every day, I choose to find the heaven, to find the oneness, to find the acceptance and the gratitude in each and every moment. So, as we emerge from the ocean, feeling the wind on our wet skin, I invite you to look back and see your own whale breaking through the surface. A moment of wonder, a moment of beauty, a moment of God expressing as nature. And know that you can find this every day, everywhere, if you choose. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and join us back here at service.
to earth. It doesn't get any better than this. We're all puppets in the hands of the one. We're all beggars. Nobody's alone. Why do we try to outdo each other when we all come from the same home? This is heaven come down to earth. It doesn't get any better than this.
Doesn't get any better than this. Not when we are in our right mind, right? Not when we are, I said that wrong. When we are in our right mind, it is already that. It is already heaven. And so thank you, Lori, for that wonderful beach visit with you. Seeing the whale. Isn't it great? So one of the books that I am reading this year, I always have a stack of readings I do every day. Right now I'm studying Emma Curtis Hopkins, doing the Science of Mind magazine, and then a couple of other things. And then this 365 Days of Richer Living, which is with Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker. And it's really good. It's probably the 5th time I've gone through it. And this is from reading in April. It's headed by In Earth as It Is in Heaven. I'm just going to read a couple of little sections from it. It says, my earth is my world in which I live. My heaven is my consciousness when it is in right thinking. The law of mind is the link between my thinking and my experience. This we know if we know this teaching. It really sums it all up, right? Then it says, divine mind and its ideas are my heaven, and I'm a transmitter for them. I turn my very experience into a heavenly one. I look out and see the glories of perfection around me. I look within and behold God's truth offering itself to me. I make heaven happen through my right thinking. My heaven demonstrated shows other people the way to theirs. It says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And our language for Lord is law. So the earth is God's and the fullness thereof, or the earth is the laws and the fullness thereof. And the kingdom of heaven is within me. Linking these two great ideas together assures me of heaven on earth today. So when we think about this idea of heaven on earth, the invitation is for us to say, if I'm not experiencing heaven in this moment, my heavenly consciousness, that's because I'm experiencing separation. So I'm experiencing the more earthly experience, or sometimes maybe the hell experience, right? Because we know that hell and heaven are not a place we go to when we die. It's a place that it's an experience that we have while we're in this physical body. So you all know the difference, right? Between when your consciousness is in heaven and when it's in hell. Yeah, anybody says, I'm not sure? We know that. We just have to think about it, just have to feel it, just have to be present. It was like, oh, wow. So we know now that in our teaching, the idea of heaven is when our consciousness is aligned with the truth within, with spirit within, which in some religions they call the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven was always within, until patriarchy / Christianity took over and decided to separate this idea of heaven and hell, which is part of human evolution, I guess. Right now, the other book I'm reading is about Mary Magdalene, because all of a sudden I'm obsessed with her. What I have always known is that she was Jesus's practitioner. She was his apostle of apostles, which, by the way, is in the Bible about 4 or 5 times. She became the teacher of teachers. She was Jesus' companion, beloved. And she was by his side the most at the end of his life and during his resurrection. But Christianity called her a whore and a prostitute and a slut, which is kind of what happened when patriarchy arrived and matriarchy was dismissed. And so we know that we've all suffered the results of that. Some of us have experienced abuse at the hands of that sense of separation, that separation between feminine and masculine, the human and the divine. And so I think that what we're witnessing now, and what those of us who are on the spiritual path are awakening to, is that separation has done so much damage. It shows up in the division we see in politics. It shows up in the hatred that we witness on the news. It shows up within our own bodies, our own mind, our own heart, our own soul, and our own relationships. So we experience a sense of separation because it was part of evolution, and now we're at a place in the world where those of us who are on the spiritual path are saying, wait a minute, what I'm witnessing in the world can be this, and this, but it's all a belief in separation. And so the invitation and the awakening right now is the return to the oneness of all life, the awareness of the oneness of all life. And that's why we have these kind of experiences like Lori did. We have these kind of experiences to remind us that there's only the oneness of all life, and that any sense of separation and suffering as a result of that is an invitation for us to rise up into the truth and to give it life. Because folks, spirituality is not entertainment. It's not a hobby. It's a way of life that we get to not beat ourselves or anyone else up with, but we get to see and notice and then be the example of living in the oneness of all life. And so what we're finding is that the individual and the collective is the same thing. So every time I find myself pointing fingers at them, or him or her, I'm in danger, because I am then responsible for the separation that's happening on the planet. Not just to people, but to everyone. Isn't it interesting that part of that sense of separation is where we started calling animals and nature it? Something I'm learning from another book right now. So there was a time when Aboriginal people would say, the tree is my brother or my sister. This rock is a he or a she. How interesting, and in some languages use masculine and feminine to describe something. So we get to come back to this idea that the earth I am walking on is my sustenance, is my brother, is my sister, is my guru, is my teacher, is the presence of God. And that I get to call the trees my brothers and sisters, the he's and the she's, and animals, my brother and my sister. They may be four-legged ones. Those of you who have pets, you know that they are your children or your siblings, right? They're not just some it. And so what we know we get to work with is our own consciousness, and the demand is high. Today in Science of Mind magazine, Dr. Ken Gordon quoted Henry David Thoreau, who said, "Heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads." So how would life be different if we began to think of heaven right below our feet? We would tread more lightly, right? And we would do another few things I will talk about in a moment. So what we get to do is we get to remember that heaven is in earth. And we get to begin to live that way in a more conscious way, knowing that none of us can do it perfectly. Because we now are addicted to our stuff, some stuff that we absolutely need, a lot of stuff we don't need, right? But it's now a habit. So I personally don't think I could live without a car. Personally, I don't think I could live without certain foods or certain water, right? Or certain medicine or certain supplements, because that's how we live today. So there's certain things that we have to then see as sacred and express gratitude for, and then do our best with how we consume. And again, I'll mention that in a little bit. So what we realize is that in early religion and early science, there was a lot about separation. And spirituality is all about oneness. So we get to weave them together within our own consciousness and think about how we can live that, knowing that we've already done a lot of damage to the planet. We've destroyed a lot of it. We have raped her, and we've taken and taken and taken and taken and taken and taken until she is in agony. And that doesn't mean that we give up and just say, well, that's just it. No, that just means that we get to be part of the healing, that we get to be part of the making aware, that we get to set the example in how we treat this beautiful planet as sacred, knowing that we can only do our best. It's not about perfection, right? Because that doesn't work anyway. And so we return to this idea of both ends, heaven and earth, hell, just having that awareness that certain experiences are hellish. They're not there to separate us, they're there to connect us and to see more deeply. The kingdom of heaven is within, the connection to truth, what's asked of us to then live. How is our way to serve? And so the whole idea is about humanizing everything. So that, we're so anthropomorphic anyway. We just look at our dog and we think it's a person, a child. And so the idea is to humanize it instead of to demonize it. I know that's hard for me. When I watch the news sometimes, it takes me a while to get my mind straight, because either my heart aches or I'm so far into judgment that it's hard to get out of it. Anybody else? Yeah, right? It's just part of what we're experiencing. So the idea then is to be aware of what we take from the earth and what we give back, and how we do that. I was talking to somebody recently because my intention this year is to do some major decluttering and minimizing, because I want less stuff. So I've been doing that already, but I mean, anybody here not have enough stuff? Right? We all have too much, right? Now don't forget that in the energy, in the collective consciousness of separation, we were brainwashed to believe we don't have enough. And so we started getting more stuff, thinking that that would make us feel better. Just look at commercials. They'll tell you, you need this so you feel better. Have you ever experienced this? I have. Watching a commercial about a certain food, and before I know it, I'm in the car and shopping for it. Because there is a manipulation, there's a hypnotic thing that's happening where we say, oh, I need that. I mean, Bed Bath & Beyond, I always laugh because I go in there and I find 10 things I need. And I have coupons. 90% off. What I've learned is I don't even have to step foot into Bed Bath & Beyond because there's nothing in Bed Bath & Beyond I need. Right? And so it's that idea that we think that the earth is going to give us something that we don't have on the inside, and then we project that onto the world, and there's organizations that say, oh, we need that thing, so let's go make it. And let's make it as cheaply as possible, as toxic as possible, like a lot of plastics, right? But we think we need it. So the idea is for us to step back and realize that there is something else happening energetically that calls us to meet that need within ourselves. And it doesn't mean you can never go shopping again, for those of you that are panicking. It just means that, wait, what do I really need in this moment? And can I go there first? And can that be my inspiration, or can that be part of my decision-making process? And so what can we do then to raise this level of my consciousness in heaven on earth? And so we can all do a lot of things, right? I mean, all of you probably experienced something when Lori so beautifully did that meditation where you could totally feel being at that beach and experiencing that life force, that energy that nourishes us, right? And so we can say, what is it that is my contribution? So there's a couple things that we can do. One is, I think we can all love our earth a little bit more. It's really okay for you to leave the front steps and sit on the grass and say, hi. Hi, grass. Hi, earth. Thank you so much for being below my feet. Right. All of us can get in our cars and do a prayer and say, thank you so much for keeping me so safe and giving me these wheels so that I can go somewhere. And that I have money for gas. I know for some of you that's gotten a little harder with the prices going up. I decided not to complain until it's the same price it is in the Netherlands where I'm from, which is probably $10 a gallon. And to be conscious of how we drive and where we drive and when we drive, just all those little things that we can just be much more present with, right? Caring is saying, I get to, instead of I have to. I get to clean my kitchen instead of I have to. I get to do laundry instead of I have to. I get to change the cat litter box instead of I have to. I get to mow the lawn. Right? You see the difference? I get to versus I have to. Then becoming a conscious consumer. One of the things I decided this year is to not purchase anything that's made in China. It's just a practice this year. Nothing against China. I just like to have things that are made local, that are made here. And most of them that are sustainable ingredients, which is not always possible, right? So just being aware of that. That how we consume and what we consume makes a difference in what the industry creates for us. If all of us decided to not purchase products from China or drink liquids with aspartame in them or whatever it may be, it would stop. So each of us get to be a more conscious consumer, right? To remember that all of life is sacred. Do you know that there is one little letter in a word that changes it completely, and that's the word demon? When you add an A, it's daemon, which is a good spirit. So instead of demonizing anyone or anything, we can daemonize in a new way. It's D-A-I-M-O-N or D-E-A-M-O-N, which is the good energy, the good vibe, instead of the not so good vibe. Sometimes it takes that little tiny bit of a shift for us to make, to be more conscious and to be more present as a lover of earth and everything in it. Gratitude, I think I already mentioned that. Just gratitude. There's a reason why most of us grew up praying before our meals. I still do. Sometimes it's just bless the food. Sometimes it's just bowing, right? Just doing a little prayer. Because I don't know about you, but there was a long time in my life where I would eat and I would not even be aware I was eating. Anybody ever experienced that? That inhaling kind of thing, that gorging kind of thing, have you ever eaten a pint or a gallon of ice cream and you were done and you go, what just happened? It's never been a gallon for me, but pints, yes. Right? But just being more conscious of how we consume is with food too, right? Then being centered on the truth, being centered on the kingdom of heaven within, the queendom of heaven within, the truth of heaven within, whatever we call that. Just the presence of God, knowing that every breath is a breath of God moving through us. Having a bigger idea. I realize that I can't fix what's happening on this planet, but I can do little things that are more aware, more conscious, more sacred, more proactive, more generous, more healthy. And I think we all can, right? So how do we give expression to that? Knowing that we are in this teaching, having the awareness that we have, knowing the principles it teaches, knowing it talks about the oneness of all life, the presence and the power of God in everything, everyone, everywhere, how can you and I give that more expression, greater expression, maybe in just a little corner of our world, maybe a bigger corner, but it's a question that we can ask ourselves all the time, knowing that that conscious awareness is the healing presence on the planet that it needs right now. See, our true abode is not our home. Our true abode is the presence of spirit within our heart, where we get to hang out so we can feel full, so that we can feel productive, so we can be of service, so we can be more aware, so we can be more generous. That creates an inner fullness that doesn't impulsively and unconsciously go, oh, I need that piece of jewelry, that dress, that piece of makeup, that tool, that kind of food, right? It's just a whole different awareness. I love walking through a grocery store because I don't go to a lot of grocery stores. I go to a local market or I go to a local health food store. But when I go through a grocery store, I walk around and instead of cursing all the aisles with 500 different cereals, and we need more, right? Because there isn't this kind of brand or this kind of cereal, is to just bless it and to just do a little awareness and prayer, trusting that we all have enough, that we all have that we need. And then when we witness those who don't have enough, to see if we can be part of filling that need in our own unique way. So I want to close with the original Aramaic Our Father, the Lord's Prayer, translated in English. Because the Our Father that you hear today is not the true translation. It left out the feminine energy. It left out the truth of spirit within us. And it was translated by the patriarchy that botched much of what's in Christianity. It forgot some of the things that reflect the oneness of all life. O cosmic birther of all radiance and vibration. Well, that's a different one. O cosmic birther of all radiance and vibration, soften the ground of our being and carve out a space within us where your presence can abide. Fill us with your creativity so that we may be empowered to bear the fruit of passion, the fruit of your mission. Let each of our actions bear fruit in accordance with your desire. Endow us with the wisdom to produce and share what each being needs to grow and flourish. Untie the tangled threads of destiny that bind us as we release others from this entanglement of past mistakes. Do not let us be seduced by that which would divert us from our true purpose, but illuminate the opportunities of the present moment. For you are the ground and the fruitful vision, the birth, power, and fulfillment, as all is gathered and made once whole again. And so it is. All right. So, another reminder, how many of you have done yoga with Steve Tarsitano in person or online? Yeah, it's really fun. It's really relaxing. He gives you adjustments if you can't do the postures. And it happens to be this Tuesday. It's on Zoom. It's been on Zoom all along. And those of you who received a Constant Contact, the link is right there. It happens to be this Tuesday. I'm going to be there. Lori's going to be there. Maybe Sharon. So we're going to meet at 6:30 and it's till 7:45. It's also really relaxing. All right. So take a moment to place your hands on your heart and just feel that give and take that happens here. That give and take of all of us receiving so much because we're here together. Spiritual communion, community, spiritual teaching, friendship, relationship, support, love, care, all that stuff that fills us, and then how we give that back to the world. Whether it's a smile at a bank customer or a Eubank, or your volunteer work or your service or your generosity in all its different forms, and just set an intention to have more balance around the give and take. And then ask yourself, how may I serve the vision of this center, the mission of this center? It's sustainability, not just for today or tomorrow, but for the generations to come. Knowing that there are many ways to give, whether it's time, energy, effort, talent, financial support, and that in the giving, we again receive. And so let's close with a healing treatment. Right here, right now, I know I am on the receiving end of a generous universe. Whether I call it God, Buddha, Allah, Spirit, Mother Nature, Divine Love, it is ever giving of itself from an infinite, unconditional well to its creation. And as one of its creations, each of us experiences this dance in a very unique and intimate way. Today we allow that to be expanded so we can stand in it and realize that each of us represents heaven on earth. That each of us brings our heavenly consciousness, which is our understanding of the truth, our oneness with life itself. We bring it to life, we bring it to expression, we demonstrate it in the world, whether it's with our loved ones, in our community, in our town, in our state, in our land, in the world. We exuberate that energy, that life force in such a way that it cannot be returned to us void. In that strong, clear, powerful intention, the law dissolves whatever is in the way, and we allow that greater freedom of being spirit in expression to come to life in new and greater ways. We bless this earthly experience, the earth beneath our feet and the heaven above our heads, with awe and gratitude, and so it is.
So it is.